right, so welcome to part two of our double feature. Listen, I'm not going to do this long intro because you all were expecting me. Okay, so you already know who this is, you already know what it is, and you already know why we are here. This is part two of today's double feature. As I said in part one, do not ever say that you're questioning my love for you, okay? Because I'm here to see you twice today. What's up to Trip C's Treehouse? How are ya? Hello to Thomas B, and hello to Indigo Forever. So listen, as you can see from the title, Nature Boy has been arrested. Now, unless you've been under a rock, you already knew that, right? Duh. So you know that I'm here to give you the legal breakdown. We're going to talk about a legal breakdown of the charges and a legal breakdown of potential imprisonment for Nature Boy if, in fact, he is found guilty of these charges, right? So, just to kind of ease us on into it, I have queued up a few videos from KKC. Shout out to KKC for always being so wonderful, thoughtful, kind, and so willing to share information with me. I really appreciate it. There are quite a few people here on YouTube that make this experience worthwhile. So I'm grateful for that. Let me say hello to a few more people in the chat. Hello to Chief X. Hello to Sasha. Hello to K Business Podcast. And hello to Terry Notary Public. I don't think I said hi to you before. So y'all, give me a moment. Let me put my hair up because it's for some reason all over. And I'm going to queue up our first KKC bid.
New at 6 tonight, DeKalb County Police have taken an accused cult leader into custody. And tonight, that man faces a number of charges, including rape and false imprisonment. Fox 5's Portia Bruner has spent the day looking into the case and joins us now with what she's learned. Portia?
Yeah, very interesting case here, Russ. I can tell you first off, Eligio Bishop, 40 years old, is being held here at the DeKalb County Jail behind me without bond, charged with some very serious crimes. Critics call the organization Carbonation a cult. I spoke to several members today who were all there yesterday when he was arrested, and they call him God, literally.
God is a very loving being. He's very caring. He's very holy.
The women and men who belong to the organization called Carbonation believe their leader, 40-year-old Eligio Bishop, is literally God. And they insist he should never have been arrested by DeKalb County Police Wednesday night at this home they say he rents here on Arbor Trace near La Vista Road. They were all here when police showed up unexpectedly.
I came outside. Police were circling with the helicopter I seen first. Then I come to the front window. We see they're outside with guns pointed at the doors, pointing at the windows.
This is a revolving door, and you can come in and out as you please. No one is going to hold you against your will here.
But DeKalb County investigators say a woman who left this organization recently made very serious accusations about the mistreatment of women. After a search warrant was executed, Eligio was charged with rape, false imprisonment, and prohibition on nude or sexually explicit electronic transmissions. He's currently being held at the DeKalb County Jail without bond.
We teach sexual education and we believe in nudity.
Yes.
And so that's one of the charges that's trying to be brought against my chief is for revenge porn. But the female that was here, the woman that was here, she gave consent to actually release it for sexual education. It's not just like porn. It's for educational purposes.
Everything that happens sexually happens among adults.
Correct. Yes.
Consenting adults.
Correct.
I did speak at length with the women there. They said that many women come and go from this organization because they don't necessarily like what they discover about themselves, and say that this is another targeted attack against Mr. Bishop. Of course, police are saying they're still investigating what happens inside the home there and what happens to the women who say they leave because they've been sexually mistreated. We'll continue to work on the story and have more developments as they come into Fox 5 News. Reporting live at the DeKalb County Jail, Portia Bruner, Fox 5 News.
All right, some chilling stuff there. Portia, thanks very much. Let's talk about the weather. A very mild day.
Well, y'all, I as I said when we talked about Ed Buck in part 1 of the double feature, I'm going to be taking a lot of deep breaths here. A lot of just let's sigh. This is crazy, y'all. So, as we heard, the law enforcement showed up to the home that he was renting, and he was arrested for, as we heard, false imprisonment, right? And you heard something that sounded like gobbledygook. But we'll get into what that is that you heard, right? I'm actually going to share with you the doc that shows the charges, okay? But you heard prohibition on blah, blah, blah material, right? That just means revenge, PORN. That's what that means. It means having the possession of someone's explicit material and then maintaining and transmitting that material without their permission. Okay. And he was also arrested for the R word. Okay. So, as I said, I will share with you a doc that shows you the actual charges before we go into the state of Georgia code to look at the charges and then have the conversation about, okay, well, what's the potential prison time here? All right. So let me hop in the chat. If you are in the building, please go ahead and hit that like button. Okay, it helps the video be shared and be recommended to more people. Okay, hello to Superfly Heru. Hello to Octavius Prime yet again. Hi, let me see your transcript. You're back. Good to see you again. Hello to SC. You're also back. Hello to DJ Dom Money. And hello to Sasha. Okay, so we just saw our first vid of, I think, about 2 or 3 that I have queued up for you to get you up to speed with this case before we dive into the code. It is so important that you know what has happened before we start reading the law. Otherwise, it's going to be a bunch of, gobbledygook. Okay, so let me pull up the second vid. And just to give you all a brief intro before I actually put the vid on the screen, this second vid that you're about to see is going to be the video of Mr. Bishop's, that's his actual last name, of Mr. Bishop's hearing. So for those of you who don't know, if you've never been arrested, which is a good thing, you do have the constitutional right to a hearing in which a judge decides whether or not you will be released prior to trial. That is sometimes referred to as a bail hearing. That is sometimes referred to as a bond hearing. In this hearing, the judge reviews your charges and decides, as I said, how much in bail or bond should be set, or if perhaps you have the kind of case where you really should not get bail or bond at all. Okay, so you are about to watch Mr. Bishop's bond hearing. Y'all, I can't make this up. StreamYard just froze. Oh my goodness. Welcome to the world of technology, y'all. StreamYard literally froze on me. I kid you not. I kid you not. Okay, so we should be good. We should be good to go now. I hope. Now, the first part of this video, the first part of this video does show the bonds application of another person, but it's very short. It's 3 minutes. And towards the end of it, we get to Mr. Bishop. Okay, so no worries. All right, here we go.
Last year, and he's still kind of dealing with the after effects of that. As I'm sure you understand, I don't think that the jail would be the best place for my client's health, based on the first on his own based on his underlying condition, but at the same time his age, and I think because of felony shoplifting. As far as the types of cases the court's going to hear today, is one of the less serious charges. And for that reason,
well, given the fact that his criminal history is quite old, and given his age and his physical situation, I do think that an unsecured judicial release or signature bond is appropriate. So I am going to go ahead and follow that recommendation, Mr. Moses. You don't have to put up any money. It's going to be a signature bond. You just have to not go back to that Walmart. Keep in touch with your attorney, and if you change your address, make sure you change it at the district attorney's office, okay? So we're going to have you sign both the special conditions and the waiver. And Mr. Barnett, I do think we have one more. DeMarcus Stevens is also a consent, as I understand.
I think I have my client. Oh, there we go. There's the. I'm going to stop talking now.
Okay.
No, you're fine. I just got off the phone and I think I just caught you saying Mr. DeMarcus Stevens. Is that correct?
Yes, but I think we can go ahead. If you're ready on Mr. Bishop, we can go ahead on Mr. Bishop and come back.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Hello. All right, so now we've got Mr. Bishop. Good afternoon, sir. Okay, thank you. You have had an opportunity to speak with your attorney, and Ms. Taylor, were you able to go over the particulars of the warrants with him?
Yes, I was.
All right, so do you waive reading of the warrants?
Yes, we do,
Yes.
Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Mr. Bishop, you are charged in case number 22-025579, warrants 22W5454359, with prohibition on sexually explicit transmissions, 3 counts of that, 1 count of rape, and 1 count of false imprisonment. Because of those charges, I'm not able to set a bond in your case, so your attorney is going to follow up with you about filing a motion for bond in Superior Court. But that's going to be all we can do for you today.
Outstanding.
Hello again. So listen, if you're an OG on this channel, you know why Natureboy was denied bond, okay? But if you are a newbie, you may not know why. So listen, give me a why in the chat if you already feel, you know what, I'm an OG here. I know why they denied his bond. I know why he was not given bail. Give me an N in the chat if you're thinking, I need you to break it down for me. All right. So why in the chat if you're an OG here and you already know why he was not given bail, why he was not released prior to trial. N in the chat if you don't know why and you need me to break it down before we get on to the charges. All right. I see one N thus far. Anyone else? I see some Y's from some OGs. So shout out to SC and let me see your transcript, and Silky Black and Pretoria Afro. Pretoria Afro, ma'am, where have you been? Where have you been? How are you? It's good to see you again. Let me see. Who's the majority here, though? There's a mixture of yes and no. One, two, three. I'm literally counting four. Two, three, four, five. All right. It looks like currently we have one more no than we do yes. Okay. So let me break down for you why it is that Mr. Bishop was denied bail. Okay. So when you heard the judge say, I'm not able to offer you bail at this time, there's nothing more that I can do for you because of your charges. What she is referring to is a legal term that is called the nature of the crime. In some jurisdictions, it's referred to as the nature of the charges, right? But there are certain types of crimes, there are certain types of charges that are deemed to be so severe, that are deemed to be so dangerous, that are deemed to be such a threat to society that the protocol is to deny that person's bail. When you have charges like false imprisonment, yeah, that's a nature of the crime kind of case that is going to usually render you just totally I lost my word. Ooh. Darn it, I lost the word. What's the word? Ineligible. There you go. That is going to render you totally ineligible for release before trial. When you have charges such as the R word, right? Yeah, big problem. That's another one of those charges. Think R. Kelly. Okay, think R. Kelly. That's another one of those charges that the nature of the crime in itself can totally bar you from being released. Then you have, did I say false imprisonment? I did already. Then you have the fact, or I shouldn't say fact, I should say the accusation that this man runs an entire cult, which means he has a group of people that are pretty much at his beck and call, right? Willing to do whatever he wants, perhaps willing to sneak him out of the state, perhaps willing to get him out of the country, right? So then you add on to that, that in addition to the nature of the crime, which the judge said, he's going to also have the flight risk concern. But this judge didn't even touch that. You heard what she said. She said, these charges render you ineligible for me to do anything. Okay, good luck. So she didn't even touch the flight risk part. She's focusing on the nature of the crime part. And yes, you all, there are certain types of crimes that, as I said, in and of themselves, they render you just totally ineligible for bail. Unless you have some really, really good mitigating circumstances, which means some really, really good things that you can bring up that lend to your innocence. All right. Let me take a look at some of Pretoria says, my apologies. No, darling, no apology needed. We just, want to make sure you're all right. That's it. All righty. Donnell Mitchell says, would he be a flight risk? Absolutely, he would be a flight risk. But notice that the judge did not address that. She focused on the nature of the charges. She did not even touch the flight risk potential. But as I said, when you have someone who allegedly runs a cult, yes, they are a flight risk. They have a group of people at, as I said, their beck and call. I mean, looking at the way that he has these people so controlled, it's not far-fetched to think that he could ask this person or that person to put him in the trunk of a car, or he could use this person or that person's identity to leave the country. Not far-fetched at all, right? Because he seems to allegedly have so much control over these people. Hello to Tyrone with OCOV. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Perfect Nails. Did I say hello to you yet? If I didn't, hello. And Mara says, this doesn't happen in every state. Not every state takes these crimes as seriously. Mara, you are correct. You are correct. This does not happen in every state. Okay. And could he be granted some sort of pretrial release in the future? Yes. That's something that I want to make sure we're clear on. This is not a, hard no. It's not no forever. He could be granted pretrial release in the future, just not at this time. Okay. All right. Someone said, oh, Mac is at it again. Mac is at it again. One moment. I'm arguing with Mac again. If you were here for the first feature, and if you're an OG, you know that Mac and I sometimes have a little back and forth, you know, and he was at it again. He was at it again. Okay. So we've discussed bond slash bail. Now I'm going to show you one more video, or rather I am going to, as if we care to be proper here, but we can be proper. I am going to show you one more video that brings you up to speed with where his case is today before we go through the charges, the code, and get into, as I said, the law here. All right, so let me make sure this is the right. Ooh, that's not the right video. Strange. Ah, I see. I copied the video link. Now I actually need to paste it. All right, you all, I am back. Let me go ahead and share my screen now. Share tap audio. Oh my goodness. You all, one moment, one moment. Listen, when I see moms on YouTube, I'm like, girl, kudos to you, honey. Okay. I have a fur, a ball of fur. And, you know, it's like it's a full time job trying to get a quiet 2 hours to do a live. Oh, my goodness. Alrighty. So I have the video queued up for you. Let's get into it.
Bond for a man accused of leading a cult and raping a former member. Police arrested Eligio Bishop late Wednesday night after officers surrounded his home near Decatur. That arrest came after a woman told police he raped her and posted sexually explicit videos of her on the internet. Fox 5's Portia Bruner is live at the DeKalb County Jail with the story. Portia?
Yes, and obviously that woman is identified police as a victim of rape, so we cannot identify her. But we do know that after she left the organization called Carbonation, she told police that she was the victim of a rape and that Mr. Bishop used video of a sexual encounter and posted it online as revenge porn. Based on the charges against him, that's why a DeKalb County magistrate judge decided to deny bond. Eligio Bishop, known as Natureboy online and as Three God by his followers in the group Carbon Nation, heard the long list of charges against him Friday from a virtual court hearing at the DeKalb County Jail.
With prohibition on sexually explicit transmissions, 3 counts of that, 1 count of rape, and 1 count of false imprisonment. Because of those charges, I'm not able to set a bond in your case.
Outstanding.
Outstanding was the only word we heard from Bishop in court.
Black man is God.
The black man is God.
And y'all just locked up the Messiah.
Thursday, followers who were at Bishop's home on Arbor Chase the night of the arrest defended their leader and insisted women are not mistreated here. They invited us inside the home of the 40-year-old leader and showed us some of the videos they create here that are not sexual in nature.
We teach about sexuality, religion, and these are things that as people we have we're very defined and confined in our belief systems.
DeKalb County Police say a woman who recently left Carbon Nation told investigators Bishop raped her and posted video of a sexual encounter as revenge porn. Investigators arrested him Wednesday night. The women and men who follow Bishop say everything that happens here is consensual and designed to help Black people heal from the wounds of oppression.
We're here going back to indigenous living and our true roles as men and women. And some people, women come here, they don't get their way and they go against the Black man. They do false allegations.
It is definitely a cult.
Former Carbon Nation member Erica Carroll says she joined this group several years ago and left convinced Bishop was brainwashing and mistreating women who trust him.
He is someone that needs to be locked up or either in jail or in a mental asylum.
Now, it is not clear when Mr. Bishop is going to have a preliminary court hearing. That's the type of hearing where we hear more evidence from police and what prosecutors have learned in their investigation since the night of the arrest. At this point, though, we do know that he is going to remain at the DeKalb County Jail with no bond. Fox 5 News at 6 continues after the break.
All right, y'all. Well, we got our update, right? Now, let me hop back into the chat. Hello to Miss Gemini. Hello to Truth Strong Warrior. How you been? Haven't seen you in a minute. Oh my goodness. Perfect Nails said that you took the words right out of my, literally, you took the thought bubble. So Perfect Nails says, sweetie, we all have the right to get our way about certain things. Correct. If you say that you are not consenting to something, you have the right to not consent. Okay, so you have the right to get your way when it comes to your body. Yeah. Perfect Nails, you and I are on the same wavelength. Now let me say something. And mind you, I could be wrong. So y'all let me know in the chat if you agree with me. But Afuru doesn't sound like herself now, does she? What's Afuru's real name? Kayla, I think. Kayla doesn't sound like herself, does she? She sounds like a Natureboy tape recorder, like he just told her, here's what you say, and she's just parroting it. She really does not sound authentic. It sounded like I was listening to someone that was saying something someone else told them to say. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that got that. But let me know in the chat if you felt that too, if you felt that she's not herself. And quite frankly, a lot of the members sound that way when they speak. They sound like they are speaking from a piece of paper. And you know what? Perhaps they are. In all fairness, perhaps they are because it's recorded, but it doesn't feel authentic. I don't know. Negoose, how have you been? Mac, I'm telling you right now, if I hear a word, when I have a dog, you see I'm ready for children. Mac, don't let me hear a peep. Negoose Roselle, how have you been? Mistress Monica, how's it going? All right, so yeah, I see you all are kind of agreeing with me. I see Donnell says, yes, there are talking points. Okay, so they have points that they are kind of prepared to parrot back. That makes sense because I was listening to her and thinking, girl, is this you? Is this Attack of the Body Snatchers? I mean, are you there? Hello? Girl, she did not sound like an authentic person. Silky Black said they always sound scripted. My goodness. I mean, they sound like they're reading from a script. You almost want to say to them, hey, do you need help? You need us to send somebody? Because they sound like they're reading from a script. Nappy Yankee says, hey, chat. Hello, Nappy Yankee. All right, Perfect Nails. They are so used to listening to him, they don't even realize they are incriminating him. You know what? We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see how this pans out. All right, so let's go to the actual charges, shall we? I'm going to stop this screen share so I can pull up the screen that I have. Let's see, window. It should be this window, right? Let me listen. Y'all know that I have to make sure because technology and I are not on the same page, though I make my best effort to be kind to technology. Mara says, get out, sis. DJ Dom Money, they have it word for word. I mean, really. I mean, it really sounds as though they're just reading from a piece of paper. They don't sound authentic. Oh my goodness. Okay, so listen, another big thanks to KKC. As I've said before, I'm going to sing his praises. Let me put this in the chat. Thanks to KKC. I'm going to continue to sing his praises throughout this video. He has been so amazing, from allowing me to use from allowing me to use his videos to also sending along this charge information. Shout out to KKC. You're amazing. All right. And thanks to KKC. So here we are. You see his name. Okay. This is Natureboy, you all. This is his actual booking information. Okay. So here are the charges. First, prohibition on nude, or listen, y'all, I'm not going to play around with YouTube and this algorithm stuff, because I'm going to tell you the truth. YouTube suppresses anyone who is teaching for real, right? And people reach pinnacles of success because people support them despite the YouTube suppression. So I'm not going to make this more confusing by using play words. Okay, we're going to go through this like adults, and those who want the information will get the information, right? Hello to Carolyn Spencer. All right, thank you for checking us out all the way from Toronto, Carolyn. And hello to I Am Queen Newton. You're back. All right, back into it. Prohibition on nude or sexually explicit electronic transmissions. So that's the first charge, okay? And we see another charge, prohibition on nude or sexually explicit electronic transmissions, okay? Second charge. Then we see a third charge, prohibition on nude or explicit transmissions. So 1, 2, 3, we see 3 counts of prohibition on nude or explicit transmissions. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, when you hear that, that sounds like gobbledygook, right? But really, that is revenge, PORNE. It is illegal in the state of Georgia for you to, in retaliation against an ex or in retaliation against someone you used to be with, start to transmit videos and pictures of them without their consent. So that is the truth of what you're looking at, although it reads like legal gobbledygook. Okay. 3 counts of that. I see, let me see, your transcript has a question. She says, does 3 counts mean 3 separate videos? Well, it doesn't have to be videos, right? It could also be images. So yes, 3 counts means there are 3 separate materials and or 3 separate actions. Okay, so when we get into the code, you're going to understand that it could be separate materials or it could be separate actions, right? It could be I sent the materials to multiple people, and that equates to the 3 counts. Or it could be that I sent different materials 3 times. So when we get into the statute, you'll see that it could be either or there. Okay. And it could be images as well. It can be a video, of course, but it can also be an image or a recording of some sort. All right. So now the next charge we see. Oh, okay, fine. I'll try to be somewhat algorithm, and I won't use that word because I know that word is a big no-no, right? But you see it. And then we see false imprisonment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 charges here, right? At least 2 of these charges could be a felony. Okay, so we'll get into that as well. One moment while I get my laptop charger, because out of nowhere, it's dying. All right, we are on the charger. Hello to Black Girl Beauty. How you been? Okay. Alrighty, so now that you see the charges, let's go into the code and take a look at what these charges actually mean. Alrighty, so give me one moment here. Add that back to the stream. All right, while we're at it, go ahead and like the video. All right, it helps the information get out to more people. Okay, you all know that while I appreciate people that give to the channel, my biggest thing is just like the video. You know, that liking and subscribing does wonders as well. Okay. All right, let me pull up. So we're going to use Justia, which if you're an OG here, you know that Justia is one of the websites that we use. It's a website that makes it very easy for you to pull up codes from any state. So we like to use Justia around here. All righty, let me share my window. Oh, there we go. Okay, wonderful. So you were looking at the Georgia Code, right? And you see you are in the section, it's in the part that refers to invasion of privacy, okay? And you're in the section that is the actual statute for the prohibition on nude or explicit electronic transmissions. Got that? All right, so, oh no, my laptop charger just fell out. Let's get into it. Okay. So we don't really need the definitions, right? I think we understand what harassment and nudity is. Okay. I think we get that. Okay. So let's get into section B, where we can start to discuss what it actually means, i.e., what is it that the prosecution is saying that Mr. Bishop did? Okay. T-Bam is in here. Hey, T-Bam. I didn't even see you. I just saw everyone saying hi to you. And I'm like, wait, she's here? She's here? Yeah. Hey, T-Bam. How's it going? How's it going? Alrighty. So we are, since you're just catching us, T-Bam, we are actually looking at the laws, the Georgia Code for what Mr. Bishop, aka Natureboy, has been charged with. And after we do that, we're going to discuss potential prison time for him. All righty. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So here we go. A person violates this code if he or she, knowing the content of a transmission or post, knowingly and without the consent of the depicted person, 1, electronically transmit or post in one or more transmissions or post a photograph or video which depicts nudity or explicit conduct of an adult, including a falsely created videographic or still image, when the transmission or post is harassment or causes financial loss to the depicted person and serves no legitimate purpose to the depicted person. Or 2, causes the electronic transmission or posting in one or more transmissions or post of a photograph or video which depicts nudity or explicit conduct of an adult, including a falsely created videographic or still image, when the transmission or post is harassment or causes financial loss to the depicted person and serves no legitimate purpose to the depicted person. So again, if you're just hearing that, right, I'm sure that sounds like, as I say on this channel, gobbledygook, right? It sounds like legalese. So let's take part 1 and part 2 and break it down. Now, part 1, electronically transmits or posts. Okay, so that means if he put it on Twitter, if he put it on Instagram, if he sent it to someone else in a text message, all of those things apply to this code. Okay. In one or more transmissions or posts. Okay. So that goes to, let me see your transcripts question, right? Sending it once qualifies you to be charged under this law. So truthfully, according to this law, Natureboy could have sent this video to one person and he still would be potentially prosecuted. Okay. A photograph or video. So again, we know it could be an image or a video, which depicts nudity or explicit conduct. We get that part, including a falsely created video. Oh, me and this word, including a falsely created videographic or still image. Now, it's important to note this part, because this is something that a lot of people do not know. So let's say hypothetically, Nature Boy or someone, right, whomever, were to Photoshop an image or create a false video, and it depicts someone of their camp in a Oh, no sound. Oh, I wonder what happened. Can you all hear me now? I think everyone can hear me now. I wonder. Huh. Let me check my laptop connection. All right, I think you all should be able to hear me now. I don't know what happened there. Okay. So, now to get back into the breakdown. So, it could be a falsely created video or image, right? So, even if Nature Boy or someone in his camp created a video or a picture of someone that is not actually accurate, meaning they Photoshop their face onto someone else's nude body, that still qualifies for prosecution under this law. Okay, now let's go on to the next part. Okay, when the transmission or post is harassment or causes financial loss to the depicted person and serves no legitimate purpose to the depicted person. So, this is also another thing that's very interesting to note. This law requires that the person depicted in the picture, meaning the person in the picture or video, right? That person has to feel that they've suffered harassment. They have to feel harassed by what took place, meaning they have to feel that the release of this image or video and the transmission of this image or video is damaging their life, is damaging their quality of life, damaging their ability to interact with others, right? It's harassing them, it's affecting their mental and emotional state. They have to feel that way. Or the post and the transmission isn't harassment, right? Now, here's the next part. Or causes financial loss. Okay, so the person can either feel harassed or this picture or video has to cause them some sort of financial loss. So, more than likely, the victim in this matter is alleging that she feels harassed by the sharing of these materials. Okay, now the second part, causes the electronic transmission or posting. So, here's something that's so interesting about the law. One word can shift, one word can change everything. So notice the first section said electronically transmits or posts, which means for him to be charged under the first section, Nature Boy himself has to send this message or this post. Okay. Second section says causes the electronic transmission or posting. So notice in the second one, Nature Boy can just show the material to someone or lead someone towards the material, and then that person shares it. And he can be seen as causing the transmission or the posting of that material. So someone can be prosecuted under this law, not just for things they post, but for things that they lead other people or influence other people to post as well. Interesting to note, okay? And section 2 is just a reamalgamation of section 1. Okay. Let's move further. Any person who violates this code shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. Okay, so now we're getting into it. Any person who violates this code shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of a high and aggravated nature, provided, however, that upon a second or subsequent violation of this code section, he or she shall be guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be punished by imprisonment of not less than 1 nor more than 5 years, a fine of not more than $100,000, or both. Again, a bunch of gobbledygook, right? A bunch of gobbledygook. So let me dive into it. If Mr. Bishop, aka Natureboy, is found guilty of the, how many counts do we see? Shoot, did I close it? I closed it, y'all. How many? I think it was 3 counts. If he is found guilty of these 3 counts of prohibition of legalese material, right? Then that would be 3 aggravated misdemeanors. So understand that. Understand it's not 1 misdemeanor conviction. It would be 3. So that would be 3 aggravated misdemeanor convictions. And each of them, he would have to face not less than 1 year, but not more than 5 years. So anywhere from 1 to 5 on each. And then also the potential of a fine of $100,000. So if we were to be fair and we said 2.5, right? Or let's be even nicer. Let's say 2, okay? Let's say if they decide that he is not this career criminal and they just give him 2 years per count, okay? Then that's 6 years, unless he gets all of that time to run concurrently. That's a separate conversation. Someone remind me to talk about concurrent and consecutive. I've talked about it before, but we'll talk about it again. Okay. All right, let me check the chat. I don't see, if you have any questions at any point, just drop it in the chat. T-Bam says, this day and age of data technology, smartphones, social media will get you into some serious trouble. Girl, you truer words were never said. Truer words were never said. All right, so that is the prohibition on nude or explicit electronic transmissions. Okay, so let's get into his next charge. Should I stop sharing my screen and then come back? Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and then come back to it. All righty, so I'm going to keep what we're going to call a prison calculator running in the chat. We're going to call it the prison calculator, okay? And so based upon the prison calculator, okay, and we were being fair, we were giving him 2 years per count, right? Based upon the prison calculator, his current running time is 6 years, okay, thus far. Now, let's head on into the next charge. The next charge I'm pulling up is false imprisonment. Okay, that's the next charge I pulled up, is false imprisonment. Again, we're looking at the Georgia code because he's being charged in the state of Georgia. These crimes and the statutes, the way they are written, the potential prison time, all of that differs from state to state. Okay. All right, let me see your transcript is saying something interesting. So she said that there's a discrepancy between the likes and the viewers. Yeah, let's fix that. Let's make the likes and the viewers be more representative of each other. Remember, the like is free and it helps the information reach other folks who may be interested in it. Okay, so it's a win-win for everyone involved. All right, let me share my screen again. Y'all, after all this time of sharing my screen, that feels so like a tongue twister, of sharing my screen with you all. Would you believe that it is just today that I realized this immense shortcut to screen share? Y'all. All right, here we go. False imprisonment. A person commits the offense of false imprisonment when, in violation of personal liberty of another, he arrests, confines, or detains such person without legal authority. So this is written, I think this is written in a very interesting manner. Okay. But okay. So let's break that down. So, in other words, the allegation is that Natureboy confined someone, meaning he held someone, and detained them, again, meaning he kept someone somewhere without their consent and without legal authority. Now, if you're wondering why they would say without legal authority, well, they need to make sure that people don't think that you can accuse, police officers of false imprisonment when they're arresting you based upon a warrant. That people don't think that immigration holding is false imprisonment, things like that. So that is why they make sure to say without legal authority. Okay. But really, the accusation here is that Natureboy held this person, confined them. It could be in a home, it could be in some other space. It just has to mean that that person was not permitted to leave. He would not let that person leave, and it was without that person's consent. All right. So a person convicted of false imprisonment can be punished by imprisonment for not less than 1 year, okay, but not more than 10 years. So this is 1 to 10, okay, because note that it can't be less than 1 year, but it cannot be more than 10 years. So again, we're going to be fair, and let's say 5. Okay, let's say 5 years for this one. So prison calculator. let me update our prison calculator. You're going to literally hear me typing. Prison calculator. Okay. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5. Okay, and we're going to take this real slow. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. Okay, so currently our prison calculator is at 11 years. Okay. Let's see what's going on in the chat. T Bam said Silky Black. He boldly bragged about it. What? Okay. Now it's time for him to stand in his crimes and be held accountable. Interesting. I didn't know he was bragging about this incident. Doug, the world's favorite moderator, my favorite moderator at least, but I had to give him that I had to give him that Umar Johnson like title. He's the most requested moderator in the world. Doug is giving you the Cash App information. If you are interested in sending a Cash Appy, you are welcome to do so. I do not judge whatever amount you send, by the way, and it is appreciated. And if you are unable to, and you'd like to do something for the channel, hit the like button and subscribe. Those are totally free. All right. Hello to Rockin' with the Truth. How are you? How's it going? Miss Me, Miss Mo said he definitely bragged. I did not know that. Can someone update us? For the people who don't know, like myself, Natureboy allegedly bragged about this. What did he say? What happened? We would love an update because I didn't hear about that. True Colors, aka the God TV, says so Natureboy is going to stay in custody until trial. Remember what I said earlier. Now, y'all, you got to listen now. Okay, the 2 ears, turn them on. This is not a forever thing. This is his initial bail hearing. He could be granted bail at a later date. Okay, this is not forever. This is just at this initial hearing, this judge said, and you heard her words, looking at these charges, I cannot give you any bail or bond. Please see if you can file a motion with the Superior Court. So she's saying in my courtroom, as the judge that is simply hearing this based upon what I'm seeing right now for this preliminary bail, I'm not giving you bail right now. It doesn't mean that he will never get bail. Okay? Alrighty, so y'all, based upon my calculations, we still need to discuss one more charge, correct? Now, I don't even think I queued up that charge for you because honestly, I think it's kind of obvious, what the elements of that charge are. So, I don't have that charge queued up for you, okay? But what I do have for you, and mind you, I threw this together for y'all in the little break between between the first feature and the double feature. If you missed the first feature, in the first feature, which was at 5 p.m. this afternoon, we covered Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for defamation. She's his ex-wife, and she accused him of being abusive, and he is saying that she is lying. He sued her for $50 million. Okay, so it's like Tasha K v. Cardi B, but better. We also talked about MS-13 and La Diablita. She is a girl that at the age of 17 lured 4 men into the woods to be hacked. Oh goodness, well, we're already off the algo. To be hacked to death by the MS-13 gang. And then we talked about Ed Buck, which is a man that is connected to the Democratic political party. He was donating to Democrats for years. A very wealthy man who was apparently luring men into his home for parties where he would give them drugs without their consent. And some of them overdosed and died in his home. Okay, so that was an interesting chat. All right. You can run that back because we had a very, very interesting combo about all of those topics. So we're not going to bring up the code for the R word because, as I said, we get it. We get it. All right. But what I am going to do is pull up for you a little snippet about the R word in the state of Georgia, just so we're kind of clear on what time he's facing. Right. But as I said, I'm not going to discuss the statute there because I'm sorry, it's too obvious. Okay. It's too obvious. And maybe we can save ourselves a little bit of Miss Algo's wrath if we don't pull up the R word statute. Okay. All right. So let's go to share. I'm going to pull up now my little Word doc where we see what the potential prison time is for the last charge in the state of Georgia. All right. So let me bring up my little Word doc. Here we go. Okay. So you should see my Word doc. You do. All right. So in the state of Georgia, if Natureboy is convicted of the R word, it is a felony. Okay. So let's start with that. There is no way that he can be convicted of the R word and it not be a felony. That's it. Okay. If Natureboy is convicted of the R word and then he via taking that case to a trial, then he can face either, and you see it there, or life in prison without parole or a statutory minimum of 25 years in prison. So if he's convicted of the R word, he could actually lose his life. All right. Or life in prison without parole or statutory minimum of 25 years. So going back to our prison calculator, I have to scroll all the way up to find the prison calculator. There it is. All right. So prison calculator, you're going to hear me typing. That's fine. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5 plus now what? 25. Okay, because we, of course, are going to be fair. And we're not going to sit here and say that we think that he'll be, given the DP. You see what that is? We're going to give the minimum. We're going to account for the minimum. Okay, so that is why we're using 25 as opposed to trying to calculate any of these other possibilities that we have there. Okay, so each 2-year sentence is for the prohibition against the nude materials, right? Remember that, the transmitting someone's nude materials without their permission. And then remember the 5 years is for the false imprisonment. Okay. And then now we've added the minimum of 25 for the R word. Okay. So in total, Natureboy, aka Mr. Bishop, is facing 36 years. Here, I'll type it in here for you. Why not? That might be useful, you guys. So 2 years per prohibition of transmission conviction. All right. And that gets us to 6 years. Then 5 years for false imprisonment. Okay. And that brings us to a total of 11 years. Okay. And then 25 years for the R word. And that will bring you to a total of 36 years. So we know that in total, he's facing a potential of 36 years in prison. Now, again, for those of you who may not be familiar with the criminal court system and the criminal justice system in general, it isn't likely that he will actually serve 36 years in prison. Okay. It usually is not likely that the person actually faces the maximum or the worst case scenario, right? Now, we've been fair here. So maybe he could receive 36 years, right? But it's a maybe. And then you all have to remember there are so many things that happen in between. So you have plea negotiation. Perhaps Mr. Bishop decides to negotiate some sort of plea. Then he definitely wouldn't be serving 36 years, right? Or maybe this does go to trial and maybe a jury decides, you know what? We don't see it. We don't think that she was our word, or we don't think that she was falsely imprisoned. Then you have his potential time going from 36 to what, potentially 6, right? So note that there are so many things that could happen, and he's probably not, let me leave it at that, probably not looking at spending 3 to 4 decades in prison actual time, right? Because before that actually happens, he may either negotiate something, plead to something that's lesser, somewhere along those lines. Okay. Take R. Kelly, give us back Tupac says, I'm dying to know what they did in those other countries to get themselves kicked out. Me too. I mean, I would hear that they got deported and I'm thinking, man, what do you have to do as an American, right? To get deported from somewhere? I don't know. T Bam says, just like any other criminal, they get away with it for so long because no one pressed charges against them. Good point, T Bam. T Bam, I heard about what was the woman's name? Mama something. The older woman who passed away there. Can you imagine if her family would have actually tried to press forward with even a civil lawsuit against Natureboy for their mother's passing? I mean, that would have put him in some serious hot water, you know? For real. For real. Silky Black says Natureboy told her he was going to put it out, and he did. Oh, so he threatened her beforehand is the allegation. Nappy Yankee in the building. Hello to Nappy Yankee. You see what he wrote. I'm not going to read it, but you see what he wrote. Doug has a question. He says, what if all the cult members testify against the victim and in favor of Natureboy? Well, that's a very good question, Doug. So let's say hypothetically at a trial, Natureboy had, Malia and Afuru and is it Sheba? I think her name is Sheba. Malia and Afuru and Sheba and Aya, right? And all the ladies testify that he's this wonderful person. Well, Doug, that is called character evidence. And I have to tell you, character evidence can be valuable, but it does not negate evidence of someone committing a crime. So Aya could get up there and she could say that Natureboy is so amazing to her and he's the best person she ever met. That's great. It speaks to his character. But if the prosecution have evidence that he did these things without the consent of the victim in this case, that is going to override any character evidence that Aya could offer, right? Because at the end of the day, she's speaking to what she's experienced from Mr. Bishop as Aya, but she can't speak to what this victim experienced. So character evidence, it can be good, but it does not override direct evidence that speaks to the actual charges. True Color says, hey, everyone, hit the like button. I agree. It is a free way that we can share the information. All right. Let's see here. Atmosphere. Hello, Atmosphere. How are you? Atmosphere says if all the defense has is a cult member as a witness, he's going to jail. Well, I guess we'll have to see. Look who's in the building. Peace, KKC. Thank you for joining us. I was just singing your praises about how wonderful and amazing you are. So now that you're here, let me say it again. How wonderful and how amazing you are. I hope you're having a good Sunday. Happy Easter, KKC. All right, Negus Roselle is back. The non-lawyer says, do you have a Zoom link? Are you referring to Mr. Bishop's hearing? All right, Miss Me, Miss Mo says, forced romantic interaction. Ooh, I like that. Forced romantic interaction. Not to say that I like that, but I like that. Oh, goodness. Just scratch the whole topic. I'm going to steal the way you're using. Goodness. It's a little interesting for high. Though he claims to provide education related to the topic, however, there's definitely coercion at play. Okay, I get it. So Miss Mo is simply saying that in her opinion, Natureboy is coercing some of his intimate partners. Okay. DJ Dom Money giving a prediction here. He says, I believe he'll get at least 10 years. Well, 10 years is possible, right? Looking at our prison calculator here, we know that 10 years is a possibility. So we'll see. We'll have to see. Oh, that's what the non-lawyer is talking about. Oh, he wants to know if I have, I'm assuming that it's a he. Could be a she. But the non-lawyer wants to know if I'm dropping the StreamYard link. Okay, I see. Okay. Really? You've been trying to have a session with me for 8 months? I don't think that's correct, sir. I don't have any emails from you. Check the description of this video for my email address and send me an email because I most certainly, you don't look familiar. So I don't think I have that email. Maybe you were reaching out to the wrong person. Maybe. All right. I'm scrolling through the comments. Atmosphere with another interesting comment. The additional cult members' testimony would only incriminate them. That's possible. So it is very possible. And you all, this is the strategic decision that every attorney has to make. Every attorney has to decide. They have to kind of weigh a witness, right? And they have to decide, well, does this witness do more harm than good? And it's exactly what Atmosphere is talking about. So in this instance, Natureboy's defense attorney would have to do that. So she'd have to say, okay, I have all of these people that want to testify. I have Aya and Furu and blah, blah. And she would have to say to herself, okay, what is this person's background? What is this person's relationship with Natureboy? Are they a credible person? Are they a mentally stable person? And she has to decide if their testimony is going to do so much good that she'll take the risk that they get slaughtered on cross-examination and they do a little damage, right? Or if it's just a no, if it's just you're too much of a risk as a witness and we're better off without your testimony. That is a legal strategic decision that his attorney will have to make. All right, moderator Doug dropping the Cash App again. Miss Me, Miss Mo says, drop the link. I can tell you how he got deported. Oh, we will be dropping the link in a few minutes, y'all. I know y'all love a call-in show. So yes, all right, that's going to happen. Miss Me, Miss Mo is going to school us on how he got deported. Because let me tell you, to be an American getting deported, what? Mama Dia, yes, Mama Dia, y'all. If Mama Dia's family would have really pushed the issue, he would have been in trouble a long time ago because Mama Dia is an American citizen. And these countries do not want to be responsible for this man bringing people's family members over to their country and then the person passes away and nobody wants that responsibility. So if Mama Dia's family would have really pushed the issue, he maybe would have been facing some serious legal ramifications a long time ago. Okay, bye, Mara. Bye. Hello, Empress Kaya. How are you, darling? SC says she passed away. Yeah, Mama Dia passed away, but it's under some weird circumstances. People were insinuating that Nature Boy had advised her to do certain things with her diet and her medicine regimen that led to her passing away. It was very strange. Very strange. Miss Me Miss Mo says Mama Dia's family did try to hold him accountable. That's why he left the country and moved. Interesting, but did they file anything in a U.S. court? Did they file a wrongful death lawsuit? Did they file a police report here? I'm curious. Yes, T-Bam. Mama Dia was the lady that, he had given her some recommendation about her diet and her meds, and then she passed away. Yes. Yes. All right, Octavius Prime says the punishment must be commensurate with the crimes and mitigating factors. Correct, but we're looking at the statute here. So if you notice, the state of Georgia does not mention mitigating factors. Now, that's not to say that they won't consider them, right? But they don't mention them in their statute. So you better believe that if they were really big on mitigating factors and it was some big thing for them, they'd write it in the statute. There's a reason that they don't even mention mitigation or mitigating factors in their actual statute. Now, if you're wondering what mitigating factors are, and by the way, mitigation in itself, it just means to make something less severe. So in criminal law, a mitigating factor is something that would make the defendant eligible to get less time than some other person would receive. Here's an example. Young man burns down a firehouse. And then there's testimony provided that when he was younger, he used to be punished by fire. And so he's grown this weird attachment to fire. Okay, that could be a mitigating factor. And the court might say, okay, well, I consider your abuse by fire as a young man to be mitigating. And I'm going to give you less time than I would someone else who did not have that history of abuse, right? That's an example of mitigating. But a lot of times when you have a state or a district that is big on mitigation, they will discuss that in their statute. And again, notice that the state of Georgia didn't even mention it. Okay, so probably not something that they care much about. Just an educated opinion. Okay. Alonzo Hall, hello, how are you? KKC says fair use disclaimer on what? What did I say thus far? Well, other than what I did in the beginning. Fair use. KKC is allowing me to use his videos, and fair use for all the news clippings and articles. Okay, but the statutes are public records, so we're good on those. Let's see. Oh, Mahogany Dreaming says, but wouldn't they have to have evidence before arresting him? Yes, Mahogany Dreaming. Hello. I can tell you are a newbie, but there's no shame in that. Welcome to Empowered Esquire TV. Yes, Mahogany Dreaming. You cannot just be arrested just because, DeKalb County woke up this morning and wanted to arrest you. No, to get an arrest warrant, they must have probable cause. So yes, they had some level of proof before arresting Nature Boy. And allegedly, what they had was the affidavits of these, I don't know if it's one victim or more than one victim, right? But the affidavit of the victim or victims, as well as the evidence and the proof that the materials were transmitted online. So for the R charge and the false imprisonment charge, they have the affidavit from the victim, and they have proof that the transmission occurred, meaning the transmission of the materials without permission. Remember, we talked about that earlier in the live. D. Jones, hello. D. Jones says, I don't understand why he would be online asking them to contact the individual and do something on the jail call. If he did that, I don't even know what to say, honestly. I really don't know what to say if he did that. The non-lawyer, you're being very aggressive. And I've already stated that I will be dropping the link later for people to come on. But you're being extremely aggressive. And quite frankly, you're going to start making me feel uncomfortable. So at this point, be respectful. Oh my goodness. D. Jones said, I could not believe what they were saying on the jail phone. If he really said that on the jail phone, listen, I haven't listened to that, but my goodness, my goodness. And see, yet another example. So, because you're here now means that I have to drop what I'm doing now to let you on now. You see? You see? You see what I mean? Relax. Yes, peace to KKC and let me see your transcript. All right, Empress Kaya has a prediction. Empress Kaya predicts 25 years. Okay, again, totally possible, right? Totally possible. And remember that our conviction is a big game changer because if you wipe that off the table, you can take 25 years off automatically. So the biggest thing that he's facing is that R word conviction, y'all. That is the biggest thing he's facing because that's a minimum. I mean, you heard minimum of 25, possibly life without parole, possibly DP. So the biggest thing he's facing is that R word. If he can take that off the board, he's looking at a much more reasonable way to go. Let me see your transcript coming through with the good advice. She says, I tell my students if they don't remember anything in my class, please remember Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect Nails agrees with me. She said she was baffled he didn't get in trouble from Mama Dia. So was I. I was waiting to see some sort of legal resolution there, and I was shocked when there wasn't one. D. Jones says, I always said his word and actions would be his downfall. Oh, D. Jones says it's on live video where Nature Boy is telling Mama Dia not to take her medicine. Whoa. Whoa. Black Girl Beauty says, as to Mama Dia, the family only appealed to the officials in Mexico. Yeah. I think they should have tried some avenues here in the US. As US citizens, and with him also being a US citizen, they could have sued him here. And that would have gotten further. That would have gotten further because even a civil lawsuit, see, you all have to remember that many civil lawsuits lead to criminal convictions. Did you all know that that Bill Cosby conviction was because of a civil lawsuit? They pulled transcripts from a deposition in a civil lawsuit to prosecute Bill Cosby with. So yeah, Mama Dia's family could have filed a lawsuit in the United States and during discovery pushed for depositions. Those depositions could have been evidence in a criminal conviction. Even in Mexico, if they wanted to say, okay, let Mexico try him because it happened in Mexico. Right? Right. I am scrolling through the comments. What? Sonia Solo, how are you, darling? Says he has a warrant in Ohio from Velvet. Sonia, are you new? I think you're new. Welcome. He has an outstanding warrant in Ohio as well. He's really in for it then because now Ohio, if that warrant is active, Ohio's going to come knocking now. They're going to say, hey, Florida, you have this guy. This guy has a warrant here. When you're done with him over there, can we come and take him or can you send him here? Oh, my goodness. Rena S. Hello. Yet another newbie, I think. Rena S. says, will the FBI pick up the Nature Boy case? They might be investigating him already, right? With all of the traction that his, let's say, antics tend to get online, they might be investigating him already. Darnell Mitchell says, does she need a kit? Maybe she had one completed. Maybe. Now, does she have to have one? Yes and no. Okay, so a kit would definitely make the R word charge stronger. Most definitely, if she has one, it makes a stronger case. But there have been R word convictions without that kit. Oh my goodness. T-Bam says, yes, he told them to get in touch with the victim on the jail phone. Oh my goodness. He better hope they don't add tampering with evidence and tampering with a witness. Come on. That is crazy. Sonia updating us says the Ohio warrant is for DV. Oh, my. Nappy Yankee and Black Girl Beauty kind of on the same wave. Nappy Yankee is asking, I'm still wondering if he can catch a charge for the death of Mama Dia. The rumor was that there were a few deaths under his watch. Well, Mama Dia is the only one I'm aware of. Again, they would need some evidence. And I think that's where the civil lawsuit would have came in. You know, the path that I just walked you down where I said, man, if that family would have filed a civil suit, discovery, depths, and they could use those, right? I think that would be the best path for, potentially him being held responsible for that. Mara headed out. She said she knows the other mods will take very good care of me. Thank you, Mara. She said, please be respectful. She also said she has a promo for my subscribers. Awesome. So, subbies, if you go to gemerites.com to see some of Mara's beautiful products, she has these gorgeous silk products for ladies. You'll get 50% off. That's awesome. Doug says, I think he will wiggle his way out of most of the charges. Maybe. Ooh, and KKC says Mama Dia's case is still open. So, hey, yeah, maybe. Maybe there's a possibility there. Alana James says, is it possible to serve a U.S. citizen if they are living in another country? Awesome question, Alana James. Yes, it is. However, it's complicated. Oh my goodness. It's complicated, but it can be done. So similar to how in the US you'd want to go through, if you're not going through a private, subpoena service or something, right? You would want to go through a marshal or a sheriff, right? With another country, that would be your main option. With most of these other countries, your main option would be to go through some sort of international law enforcement. So the law enforcement in that country to have them serve this US citizen. But again, they can do it physically, and then you could still have the problem in US court. So the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that the entity that you're using in that country, so let's say you use Mexico City Marshal. I totally made that up. And as many times as I've been to Mexico, I should know better. But Mexico City Marshal, right? Let's say that's who you're using to serve this American citizen. That's fine and dandy. But you have to make sure that whatever methods Mexico City Marshal uses, those methods comport with the United States Constitution, right? So first, you got to do that whole check-in thing. And then second, you have to make sure they provide you with evidence that would be, that you could actually use in a U.S. court. So there's some back and forth there. Anyone that's trying to serve someone that's in another country, I would highly recommend you first speak to your local court or whatever court you're filing in, right? And you ask them directly, hey, my opposing party, my adversary, they're in another country. How do you recommend that I serve them? Because many courts have their own ideas and preferences as to how they want you to serve someone that is in another country. Sonia says, yes, I'm new. Well, welcome. Welcome. The Truth says, happy Resurrection Day. Happy Resurrection to you as well, The Truth. All right. And T-Bam, when did Mama Dia pass away? It would depend on what the statute of limitations is for wrongful death in the area that her family plans on filing. So wherever they are, because I don't remember how many years ago that was. All right. Rena is telling us that Natureboy got kicked out of Mexico. Oh my goodness. Hey to the green hipster. Hey, how are you, darling? So good to see you. Hey to the Truth. Listen, the Truth just reminded me to do a content creator roundup. So let me start with her. Y'all, the Truth has an awesome YouTube channel. She's from Chicago. She covers a lot of the R. Kelly filings and cases, and she has that first person perspective on it. And I mean, it's invaluable, right? Because she can actually talk to you about what's going on in Chicago and what it's like and the history and everything. So Check out her channel. She is awesome. Okay. The Green Hipster is also a content creator. I know she's working on some things for you. I don't think they're out yet, but just keep that in mind. Okay. Let me scroll through. KKC is a content creator. Check him out. He does amazing content on an array of topics. He has a lot of Umar Johnson content, but he also has some content on cults, and he does this really awesome music battle setup where he does like fantasy battles and he just plays awesome music, right? So that's always a good thing. And I'm scrolling. Nappy Yankee. Nappy Yankee, similar to myself, does a lot of social commentary. So definitely check him out. He does some very interesting topics on incarceration, on the impact of pop culture on Black society, right? So a lot of good insight there. So check him out. I'm going through. Negus Roselle's a content creator as well. Let me see your transcript. Also a content creator. I believe she has some Umar Johnson content, but also she does this thing. I shouldn't say this thing. I should say this series. She does this series called African American Greed. Oh, y'all, it's a must watch. It's a must watch. Okay, it's so interesting. It'll totally pull you in. I'm going through, I think I've gotten all of the content creators. If I forgot you and you're a content creator and you're in here right now, drop a CC in the chat so that I can add you to my to my list, okay? If I forgot you. Alrighty, so I'm going to drop the StreamYard link. Is there anyone else I want to say hello to? No, I think I got everyone. Nappy Yankee says, side note, weirdos like Natureboy, Polite, Umar, YP, etc. tend to get elevated by Sonetter's platform. How soon before the authorities call him in for questioning? I don't know. The bigger question is how soon before people stop watching him? That's the bigger question. How many people who prey on vulnerable victims does Sonetter have to be connected to before people stop watching him? That's a better question. That's a better question. Oh boy. All right, so let me drop the StreamYard link. Yeah, African American Greed, girl, you got to check it out. You got to check it out. Let me see your transcript. Does some awesome work over there. Okay, copy to clipboard. So the StreamYard link is now in the chat. Y'all, this is a double feature. So be advised that I'm not staying here long. I loved you enough to come back twice today, and I'm not staying here long. Okay? So the StreamYard link is in the chat. Miss Me, Miss Mo, you promised us you would come backstage. And there's a bunch of other people that wanted to come backstage. So the link is in the chat. You're welcome to come on back and we can talk about it. All right. Hello, I am Whole E. I like your play on words there. I am Whole E says, is anybody still watching Sa? I'm not, but I mean, is somebody still? Who knows? His channel super fell off from what it was. I don't know, hun. Who knows? But I know somebody still is because people still talking about him. So that tells me somebody's still watching him. Oh, okay. So Doug says he's losing steam. His viewership has decreased. Oh. Interesting. I'm putting the StreamYard link in the chat again. All right. So the link is there. For anyone who would like to come backstage and talk to me about the Natureboy arrest, about the Natureboy case. Notice what I'm saying about the Natureboy arrest, about the Natureboy case. All right, you're more than welcome to use the StreamYard link. If you want to talk to me about something else, send me an email. Okay. Oh, Missy Miss Mo is here. Yay! All right, adding her to the stream. Hello, Miss Mo.
Hello, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am doing well. Just trying to wrap up the night here and about to eat some dinner in a little bit. So happy Easter to you and all the listeners.
Happy Easter to you as well. So could you tell us why was Nature Boy deported from other countries? What happened there?
Sure. Well, take your pick. But all of it is, quite frankly, it's usually just for just silly things. So for in one situation, I believe it was Nicaragua, they were just pulled over for having old tags or just normal things being pulled over, and all the police were asking was, please just show us your ID so that they could process the fact that they were there and that they were legitimately there, and that sort of thing. And he just starts demanding or commanding rather his followers, don't do it. This Babylon is out to get us. They're just, all of this, just kind of, creating this fear in them that this was all some sort of thing to take them down. And, this is Babylon coming against us. And they had an individual who's a part of the quote tribe at that time, and he could interpret, he spoke, and he was just saying, they want to see our ID. They want to see our visas, that sort of thing. And he just continued to say, don't do anything. Just sit here silently. Just sit here silently. And of course, as will happen with the police in any country, if you're not compliant, they're going to intervene. And so then they just asked them, okay, well, if you're not going to provide your identification, please step off so that they could, take additional action to process and confirm that they were, again, legitimately in the country. He continued to say, don't say anything, don't reply to anything. Even the interpreter was, saying, I can explain to them, trying to see if he would, stand to reason, and he absolutely would not. And so they then, of course, forcibly took them all off of the van that they were in at that time. And took them in, but again, they still were not charged with anything. They were just asked to leave because they were non-compliant, and that sort of thing. That sort of action has happened country after country after country. It's always the same thing. There's always just some sort of continued noise complaints, continued police intervention, and then of course what is happening, because there's so many people who just follow him and what he's doing, and they're concerned. I certainly am. But many people just start finding out where they are, and they just start calling the police in those localities and explaining that this is a cult leader, all of these accusations and things that we've seen online, and relaying those. And then of course those countries become very concerned, and start looking into things, and of course eventually many of them ask him to leave. He's even been asked to leave locations in the United States, Puerto Rico, of course that's owned by the United States, and then Hawaii. He was asked to leave there because they went out during quarantine, started touching on the turtles, and people who do not, are not familiar, in Hawaii, those turtles are extremely sacred. You are not to touch them at all. You shouldn't do that. He went out into the ocean, and again, on camera, started showing all of them touching the turtles. That was the end of everything. And then that's why he's now back on the mainland after going from Nicaragua to, Mexico, Puerto Rico. He just goes from place to place, and the same things happen each and every time. There's also, of course, been situations where, for instance, Velvet attempting to leave and her reporting to the police and different things also have contributed to him leaving. Other times he just leaves because he's, in my personal opinion, a coward, and becomes afraid because people have either located him. He knows that he will likely, have the law, coming down to look into what is going on, and then he'll quickly cut and run to the next location. So that's the best summary that I think I can provide, but it's never been anything significant necessarily, but he makes it worse than what it needs to be because he just simply will not comply and will encourage his followers to do the same.
Well, thank you, Miss Mo, for that summarization. So it just sounds like he is in these different countries just wanting to actively defy their authority, maybe similar to what he does here. Who knows?
Absolutely. That's all it is. And then of
Right.
course he tries to be the authority, as he claims himself to be God, to his followers, and they then comply with those requests as well. And so sometimes it's not even him, it's the other people who are not complying because he's told them not to comply. And then that just further exacerbates everything.
Well, thank you, Miss Mo, for getting us up to speed. You're welcome to stay, but I'm going to open the floor to Silky Black to share with us his or her, I'm not sure, piece on this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Also, I wanted to add, in Hawaii, they had an issue with him because he didn't comply by COVID. You know, you were supposed to quarantine yourself for 14 days, and they didn't. You know, so that's why they wanted him also gone from Hawaii. But what I wanted to add to this conversation, I wrote in the chat that I wasn't sure that the R charge would stick. And the reason I said that was she did an interview and she told about this, what happened with him. He had the girls to jump on her, to beat her up. And then he made her like go and have this sex with him. But she said on that interview, we made love. She said that on the interview, and then you go and put them type of charges on him after you gave an interview saying, and y'all made love. And I wonder, is that gonna really affect her case? Although I believe he was very aggressive with her and he made her do it. That's why people do what they do around him. They're afraid of him. They're afraid of what the consequences that they may have. And so they just do what he wants. So I do believe it was a thing of her being afraid to even say no, because everybody does what he wants there.
You know, that speaks to your question. So your question of will that be used against her? That depends on the circumstances. Because if she made this video where she says they made love while she was still in his presence,
no, she was gone. She was gone.
Oh.
She was gone with you. The day that this happened, she left the next day.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that's
but it's hard to leave. Wait, she couldn't leave. So I believe everything she say, because this is not the first girl that says that you have to basically sneak away because they don't let you leave. So she left when he went to sleep.
Wow. Okay, so that video could hurt her. It could hurt her that she, outside of his presence, referred to it as making love. That could be harmful to her credibility, yes. However, she could try to doctor her credibility or rehabilitate. And mind you, she wouldn't be doing this on her own, right? The prosecution would be doing this. But they could try to rehabilitate her credibility by talking about her mind state at the time that she made the video, because there are so many things mentally and emotionally, you know, psychologically, that go into the R word.
I don't feel she's a really credible person, because she left and went back and left and went back several times. And before, when she left, she said how she had to go to the doctor and free herself of all these diseases that he had passed to her. But you went back to him after getting online saying that he did all of these things to you. You went back again. So, and then when she went back, and I knew he was going to treat her bad for how she outed him online. And she said, well, which I feel he made her say, that it was lies. So who's to say that believe her now?
May I ask a legal question of you about that very same topic?
Yes, you may go ahead. I think we're hearing from
Miss Mo.
Oh, that's Miss Mo.
Yes. So
yes,
a question that I have with that, if you could maybe speak to this. One is, some people refer to romantic interactions, trying not to say any words that would harm your channel. But some people just refer to that in general as making love. Now, I don't know what the case is with that, but could there be an argument there that that's just kind of an innocuous way of describing what took place? Because what she also said with that is that, you know, he had, you know, pressured her or kind of, forced her in that act. The other question that I have is, so many people have brought up the fact that this person has left and come back and that sort of thing, but that's very similar to situations where there's domestic violence, for instance. And people go and come and go and come, but that doesn't necessarily equate to, or even in the R. Kelly case, people came and went and came and went. However, they still reported abuse, during those times, or at least in that last occasion, things happened that they did not feel comfortable with. Can you speak to, how that might affect this particular case?
So you make a good point when you talk about how someone refers to what happened to them, which again goes back to the psychological effects of that type of assault, that type of abuse. That's something that they would have to explore with a specific witness, because maybe she referred to it as making love, and maybe that was because she was ashamed of what happened. Maybe that was because she doesn't know how to process what happened. But at the end of the day, what matters legally is whether or not she consented. So yes, it could hurt her if she referred to it as making love, but what it really comes down to is, did she consent at that moment to that action or that interaction?
I don't think anybody in his camp can tell him no.
And you see, that's an interesting dynamic, because it's similar to sexual harassment in the workplace and things like that, and I think we've discussed this also with Bill Cosby. When the power dynamic is so topsy-turvy, when you have someone who is extremely powerful for whatever reason, whether they control your water or your food or your job or whatever, and you are so much less powerful, the law can view you as someone whose ability to consent is diminished. It's the reason that sexual harassment is such a big deal in the workplace, and why your boss is not supposed to come on to you a certain way, because they hold this power over you, and that diminishes your ability to truly consent. You may feel like you can't say no. So
Hey, how's it going?
Yisrael Youngin has been waiting for a moment. So could you jump in, Yisrael?
I'm gonna drop down. Thanks for having me.
Yes, no problem.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I haven't been connected to things associated with Natureboy for probably about maybe 3 or 4 years now. I'm actually surprised that he's still around. I thought he kind of got dropped by all these different various communities out here. But I actually wanted to speak to you kind of made mention of it already, but the psychological disadvantage of these people that are with him at that time. I know a lot of people who, once they leave, they express the nature of the abuse and, a lot of those things. So I kind of was under the same impression that, although they have probably said things about being assaulted sexually and things and went back on those, a lot of times they were still dealing with him behind the scenes. When you watch a lot of the lives, he's in the comment sections and everything else. So that might not hurt the case that much if they can prove that there was some type of coercion or some type of foul play there, or manipulation even.
So I think someone else just joined back. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Israel. So when you talk about the manipulation of the women that were there and the members that are there, and whether or not they're in the right mental state, all of that goes back to whether or not they will be able to effectively get that across at a trial. Because someone like you or I, we can look at it from the outside looking in and say, oh, we can see with all the people, especially the people that leave and come back and leave and come back, right? We can say, oh, I can see that they're obviously going through some sort of emotional and mental turmoil. But at a trial, they would need to try to prove that, right? If they want to explain away some of the things that Nateri allegedly said, right? And so, we can understand that. We can see that. We can tell that something is going on. But the real question is, will they be able to effectively get that across at a potential trial?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And then I'm probably going to drop. So I guess improving that, would they be able to use those said lives and maybe the attack from what do they call them, members in Babylon, to say, hey, I was under stress, these people were coming at me, or some type of thing like that, to show there was manipulation still at play, even though I wasn't physically in his presence.
Absolutely. If she has messages from members, because what we've heard, particularly with Velvet when she left, is that people will reach out to them when they leave. So if she has messages from members threatening her, if she has DMs, if she has anything from members telling her, oh, you need to keep quiet, or if you do this or do that, you're going to be in trouble. Absolutely. And it can be used to rehabilitate her credibility on certain statements such as that, right? She can say, I was pressured to smooth it over. I had people in my DMs threatening me and I was afraid. Also, it's been insinuated that he has the information of these people. And by information, I mean like social security number and things like that. That can be used to coerce somebody as well. Maybe she fears that with all the information that he has on her, she needs to smooth it over and make it seem nicer than what it was. So, all of that is something that could be at play.
Right. I believe there's been lives where he stated he even had access to their things like their bank accounts and all of that stuff as well. So it seems like a lot of weirdness is going on with the carbonation. But thank you for having me on. I actually love your show. I've been a subscriber for a fairly long time, and keep doing what you do. Great information.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. All right, the non-lawyer, you're up.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think I saw you a while ago. I think you were on someone's channel, and you were talking about the R. Kelly case, and you were saying things that I just really disagree with. I was like, I got to get a piece of her. I got to get a piece of her. And that's what I mean by I've been trying to get to you in 8 months. So there's a couple of interesting things that I just kind of noticed now. I'm going to be upfront and honest. I just became aware of this whole Natureboy fiasco, just browsing YouTube, and I saw that you were talking on it, and then that's how I became aware of it. So I really don't know much, but what seems to be happening is that a lot of these cases appear to be similar, right? But this case actually has one unique difference, and there's so much I want to say, but I'm just going to condense it, and hopefully we can talk about this or something else sometime in the future, because I really want to debate with you on some of these things. But the first thing that I noticed is that it seems that he had a society called Carbonation. Is that correct?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Okay. So probably no one has thrown this at you, but I'm going to throw it at you. And typically, when you have a person that goes off grid and they create their own society, they bring people into that society based on the rules of that society. And for example, there has been people who've been indicted in the past, but there's also been some people who have successfully started their own society and just kind of done away with these issues. Let me ask another question before I actually say anything else. Was it forcible assault, or was it just a situation where they were coerced, or something along that nature, or was it forced, or was it not forced?
Based upon what Natir shared in the interview, she's claiming that it would have been coercion in order for her to be able to safely leave the following day.
Okay. All right. So when you come into a society, that society has laws and rules of its own. So to be honest with you, I would probably, if I was a Natureboy, one of the first things I would do is I would object to the court's jurisdiction, and I would just say, hey, we have our own society. Here are the laws and bylaws, and here's our definition of the R word, so on and so forth. And I don't consent, to these laws, and I don't consent, to being charged, and I don't really consent to the hearing. Now, there's people that
So
have
hold on, non-lawyer. I need to interject one moment, just because I want to note something about that argument. So you are correct. People have alleged that they have created their own society and that they have used the argument of having their own society to be no longer under the effect of US law. But here's the thing. Any case that has ever been provided to me, mind you, you can provide me with one that you know of, right? But any case that I've ever seen that's ever been provided to me in which the person alleged that they beat that case, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, and they're alleging that they were the victor in the case because they found themselves exempt to US law, I've never seen that work. I've seen people make that argument, but I have never seen it work. In fact, the only community in the United States that I know of now that has something somewhat of what you're saying and it's effective is the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn. That's it. And that's because they actually did it the correct way.
right. You know that they have Native Americans in this country, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So those people are pretty much exempt from U.S. law. Mind you, you can't. Not, there's limits, of course,
They're
right?
exempt from U.S. law when they're on the reservation. They are not exempt from U.S. law when they're off res.
Well, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent. So I'll just say I'm just going to agree to disagree with that. It depends on what it is. Now, you can't go around killing people. You can't go around assaulting people and then claiming that you're exempt from U.S. law. That's why I ask if it was forcible, right? You know, because if it wasn't forcible and you're trying to bring in some statute or, you know, so and have you, then I think you have a really good chance. Because from what I understand, like, I don't know much about Nature Boy, but from what I understand, he genuinely tried to start his own society. Right now, I'm going to admit I haven't paid that much attention. I don't know if the man had bylaws and he had his own statutes, so on and so forth. But my understanding is that, you know, the people who came aboard with that, they wanted to be a part of that, what he had going on. You know, so I would think his lawyer would be negligent to not object to the court's jurisdiction. Doesn't mean that the court is going to accept that, but I think that's something you want to preserve on appeal because, like I said, he genuinely tried to start his own society and it looked somewhat successful. And another question I was going to ask is where this actually happened, but I think I Googled it and it said it happened at DeKalb County or something like that. I thought he was like,
it was in
happened in
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
Georgia. Yeah, this specific case.
It
These
happened in
charges
DeKalb
are
County.
specific. Yeah, it was in DeKalb County, Atlanta. May I ask you a question, the non-lawyer, or maybe, and also to empower. If that were the case, then, and I know that these are, you know, different jurisdictions and such, but if that were the case, wouldn't Warren Jeffs have not been convicted? And, you know, he had his doctrine. And the same thing for Keith Raniere. They had their doctrine. And so Nature Boy, of course, has his doctrine, which does include, you know, physical interaction with one another in a romantic form, and claiming that there's the education to that. However, you know, there still is a level of harm that's in there that the law has interpreted, at least in those two cases that I know of, and there have been others also, even some of the Catholic priests and that sort of thing, where they said, no, you can't hold doctrine for this particular thing. So Empowered, maybe can you speak to that? And then non-lawyer, can you speak to, because to me, if that was an effective legal, you know, argument in those cases, then they would have argued that for them and those people would be free. Those, you know, and that's not the case. And both of those cases had romantic interactions involved and religious doctrine, correct? Empowered?
Correct. And that's what I was explaining to the non-lawyer. I've been presented with cases in which people have alleged that they made the argument of creating their own society and having their own laws and being exempt from US law, and it never worked. I have never seen it work. Now, to answer someone's question as to how the Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn are kind of under their own law, let me put that question up. I'll answer that very quickly. So if you ever go through I don't want to say it's a certain, we'll put it this way. If you ever go through a particular area in Brooklyn, you will see that the Jewish community there has their own police officers. They have their own police force. Okay. They have their own ambulances. They have their own school system. All of that is by law. They created that statutorily by filing the appropriate documentations. And the non-lawyer mentioned some of it, right? You need your articles of incorporation. You need bylaws, right? You need permission to create your own established community, township, whatever, right? And you can do that. It can be done where you create your own sort of little niche in the world, right? But even that niche will still have limitations. It will not be boundless, right? So although they have their own police officers and everything, they're technically still under US law, but they are permitted to operate independently. So here's what I mean. If you call the police in that neighborhood, their Jewish police force will show up. If you call the ambulance in that neighborhood, their Jewish ambulance will show up. If you have a legal issue in that neighborhood, they have their own local court that you can go to, right? However, the laws that are operating within that community, you can't have, for example, constitutionally, you have the right to fair trial, right? And you have the right to a speedy trial. They cannot create a community in which all of a sudden you have no constitutional right to a speedy trial. They arrest you in their community and they try you the same day. They cannot do that because they have to get permission from the US government to even exist. Notice that. Notice that these articles.
Well, I'm going to object to that. I'm going to wait my turn, but I'll object to that. Go ahead.
You can get to your turn, but if you think you can exist in this country without their permission, I don't know what world you're living in. You get permission from the United States to create this niche, to create this township, this community, society, whatever you want to call it. You get permission. Hence the reason why you file documentation with them. And anyone who has this understanding that the documentation is just a formality and it means nothing, and that Natureboy can get online with no documentation and just
we don't know that he doesn't have documentation. But
we know that he doesn't. We know that he doesn't. That he can just get online with no documentation and say that he's created his own society and now he's exempt from US law is an absolutely, and let me tell you, as I always say when I talk about these topics, it doesn't personally affect me at all if you think you're living in your own community. You know who it affects? You. So I would tell you to be very mindful of anyone telling you that you can say you created your own society and then start to break laws, okay? Because more than likely, that's not going to work out for you. Has creating a separate township been done? Yes. Has creating a separate community, or as the non-lawyer likes to call it, society, has it been done? Yes. But you receive permission from the government to exist. The government then allows you to operate on US land. And you still have to keep an eye on your laws because your laws cannot run too much amok of the US Constitution, or they're going to come in and they're going to say, hey, listen, we're revoking that charter. We're revoking your permission to operate as your own thing because you're running amok in here. Okay, non-lawyer, go ahead.
Okay, man, there's been so much that I lost track. First, I think Black Girl Magic, is that your name? I think the young lady who asked the question, Black Girl Magic. First, I think she mentioned Keith Raniere, and I think Keith Raniere is a little bit different because I think Keith Raniere actually, broke a lot of actual laws. One of the things we have to remember is that there's two types.
Lawyer, remember what you said. I hate to interrupt you, but we have to clarify that you're contradicting yourself. If you're exempt from the law, why would it matter that he quote unquote broke laws?
Okay, let me step back. So there's common law and then there's statutory law. Statutory law can become common law, but common law trumps statutory law, at least according to Black's Law Dictionary. And of course, you are correct. The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. However, the Constitution doesn't cover everything, right? Constitution covers basic rights and freedoms, right? So that's why they have all these statutes to cover everything else. There are plenty of societies out there who I believe don't need the government's permission to exist. For example, you have Amish people out there who don't believe that they need, at least I don't think they need.
They have government permission. They have townships with government permission.
Okay.
Yes, they
I mean, and you know what? I can't challenge you on that because I don't know the actual facts, but I'm going to just object and just argue that you don't need the government's permission in order to have your own society. Now, the preamble of the Constitution, of course, says that we are free and independent, and we give permission to the government in order, to protect our basic liberties, essentially, right? But if at any point a person doesn't want to be a part of the government, right, they have a right to break free. Now, traditionally, according to the Constitution, that meant some type of, taking up arms and rallying against the government. But I don't think you need to do that. All I'm saying is that Nature Boy could have a argument that he can make, and he can preserve it on appeal, right? They may just say, no, we're not going to acknowledge that. Get out of here. You're crazy. We run in this, so we're going to enforce our laws upon you. But I just want to throw out there for everybody is that even according to the Constitution, you're free and independent, and you give your consent to the government to be governed. But what I'm noticing now, and I'm just going to shift gears because I don't want to eat up too much time on your channel. And again, I love the way you talk, and I love hearing some of your content, and I hope we can do some work together. But I'm just going to shift gears a little bit. I just noticed that a lot of these claims are allowing a lot of men to be locked up for having sex. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing in this session is some of the same stuff that I'm hearing in R. Kelly's case, and it just doesn't make sense. If you are being assaulted, why would you come back? And I get that, sometimes certain individuals are in a situation where they're being, I don't want to say mind controlled, but they're being brainwashed, or they're under some type of spell. I get that, but I think more needs to go into evaluating whether or not this person was under some type of spell. And I'm using spell in lack of a better word because I can't think of any other word right now. I think more needs to go into evaluating that before we just start arresting men, because the people who are victims of this are actually, Black men. Not to say that people aren't assaulted, women aren't assaulted. I respect women. Women need to be respected, but it's hard. You're going to have to give me a really compelling reason on why you just kept coming back and back and back. And then finally, when things don't go your way, now you're ready to press charges, So that's all I'll say for now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to open the floor in a second for, I don't want to butcher your name, QI. I think Key for Key and KKC. But before I do that, I want to say this. Someone had said in the chat, we'll try it and see if it works. And that's my challenge to everyone who thinks, because let me tell you, I am not someone who says that I am always 300% right all of the time, right? No person is. And the law is always evolving. So if you think that you can be your own community, try it. And I'd like you to let me know how it works. Give it a try and then do something based upon your laws and give me a call or shoot me an email and let me know how it goes, because I'm curious to see.
I got to respond to that. I got to respond to that. There are plenty of communities that have done this and that are doing it now, but you have to understand, we live in a world of racism and we live in a world of espionage. Even if you successfully, even if you follow all the rules, you cross your T's and you dot your I's, there's still going to be someone out there who has motive, to basically destroy that community. Case in point, look at Russia, Ukraine. Putin basically, well, actually, in my own personal opinion, Ukraine was always a part of Russia, but because of the Cold War, we, as the United States, engineered the separation of Ukraine from Russia, and Russia is now attacking Ukraine to bring Ukraine back under its control. So I'm going to say that it can be done, and it's 100% perfectly legal, but you're always going to have things of that nature where people want to destroy your society, where they think you shouldn't have a society, and they'll bring up, charges like this, and you'll end up, in a situation. But there are plenty of communities out there who have their own societies, Amish, Jewish, Indians, even the Indian society. They've been oppressed so much that it's almost heartbreaking. So it's your fundamental right that is in the Constitution, right? The consent of the governed basically has a right to decide to be governed. Anyway, I don't want to eat up too much of your time. I do love your channel, and I can't wait to maybe talk to you again. I'll stop right there.
You're not going to swoop in like that because you agreed with me. You realize you just agreed with me. We agree that they can technically form or attempt to form, but when they use it legally, it doesn't work.
Well, I'm agreeing that lawfully, they have a right to do that, and you don't need anyone's consent. But what I'm saying is that governments attack other governments. Governments attack other societies. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm agreeing to. And I think that when you look at what's the guy's name who got those child assault charges, the Nuwabi Nation, I think he did a wonderful job at that. But eventually he was torn down. I don't know if he actually did those things, what have you, but eventually he was attacked and he was basically ripped apart. But look, I'm going to let you. I'm going to give up the mic, and you
want to be here, so I don't know why you're running off now. You wanted to be.
I do want to be here. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Joking, but you're welcome to hang out. I wanted to address this comment because I do need to clear this up. So, Eliezer, I hope I get this. Yasharala, you are pupil of the live, star pupil today. So yes, I do want to clarify that. Black's Law Dictionary is a secondary source, and common law actually does not defeat the direct interpretation of the presiding judge and the law that applies there. So, for example, if you're in New York Supreme Court, right, the New York law and that judge's interpretation of it does trump common law. Common law does not trump that at all. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Are you from New York? It doesn't work that way in Chicago, and I don't even think it works that way. No. I mean, according to, well, hold on a second.
Okay.
Now, understand what common law is for the audience. I know you know, but for the audience.
Common law is?
No, I know you know, but for the audience, right? Common law is laws that have been established through the ages. It comes from
but statutory law trumps common law,
right? It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does.
So, okay, let me present my argument.
What law school did you go to? Huh?
I'm not a lawyer. I am not a lawyer, but I have. But I mean, anybody can.
I'm gonna call them up and tell them they need to get it together. Common law. So here's a quick example, so I can briefly explain why what you're saying does not apply. So common law, let's just use the M word, right? Now, under common law, the M word is to cause to cause someone to be deceased, right? So yes, that applies. But each state you go to, they're going to have different interpretations of premeditation for the first degree.
We're pulling hairs.
And that's going to trump common law. Statutory law trumps common law.
We're pulling hairs.
Let me tell you why it's important. The big thing on my channel is I want to educate people on the law. So it's not pulling hairs for me. It's a big thing for me to make sure my audience knows, no, that is not correct. The interpretation of the presiding judge of the applicable statutory law trumps common law. Yes.
So let's take a step back. I'm going to argue, I'm going to object, and I'm going to argue that it doesn't. And here's why. And just think about it. If the presiding judge had the final decision, then we wouldn't have a thing as an appeal. common law is also
Oh
decisions.
my goodness, you're
Com,
wrong. I'm
com,
I'm a
hold on,
lost licensed
Empowered. You gotta let
attorney.
me. I can't. You got
Oh
to let
my
me finish my thought. You got to let me finish
Continue,
my thought.
continue, but you're wrong. With love, you're wrong. Continue.
Okay. Okay. So common law is also statutory law that has been confirmed as it has basically gone through the stages of litigation. So if you have a statute that says XYZ and someone challenges that law, and then that law is appealed in the appellate court, and then it goes to from appellate court to Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court upholds the judge's decision, the presiding judge's decision, then yeah, that basically is common law at that point. I think statutory laws become common law, but a new statutory law interpreted by a presiding judge does not trump common law. I think that's even, don't quote me, but I'll go and get the Black's Law Dictionary and I'll confirm that in a second if you want. But that's basically what I read in Black's Law Dictionary.
No, it's so. Let me just because you read it in the Black's Law Dictionary does not mean that you are implementing it and interpreting it correctly. So let me be clear. What you described was case law. And let me say this to anyone who's wondering why he's still up here, because this is what I do, y'all. This is why I got my law license, to teach. So when I hear someone saying something that is not correct, I'm going to stay and correct it. And I appreciate this opportunity to sharpen my sword. Okay.
Now, you're going to sharpen the sword on me.
Yes. No.
Hey, your audience doesn't like me, so I think I need to tap out.
They can stand you. What you described is case law, right? Something happens to me in lower court, so I appeal it to a higher court, and in that higher court, they set a new decision that changes the lower court. That's case law, sometimes referred to as precedent. Precedent, right? Yeah, that can trump a statute. You can have case law that comes along and totally overrides a statute. That happens, totally. But that's not common law. That's case law. And from what I hear you saying,
case law and common law is one of the same.
You're confused. No,
common law common law is simply decisions that have been decided over the years. Case law is law that has been decided as it's been appealed. So I mean, we're really pulling hairs on that.
No, because common law is more generalized. Common law is a general. When you think common law,
why don't your audience like me though? Why doesn't your audience?
Okay. You know what? Let's hop on to the next thing that I want to discuss.
Yeah, hop on to the next up. But hey, that's why I wanted to get off, because for some reason people just don't like me. I like talking about stuff like this, and I like this energy, but people, they just don't like me. I don't know why. Anyway, look, we got to talk. I mean, I got some good topics I want to debate with you about in the future, but I'll email you.
Okay, go ahead and email me. Let me answer this. You can stay or just listen for this. But anywho, so we talked about why someone would leave and go back and leave and go back. And there was a lot of confusion about that. Again, sometimes it's difficult for someone who has never been or someone who hasn't worked with victims to understand the psychological mindset of a victim. A victim will leave and go back and leave and go back. And this has been portrayed in battered women syndrome, because there are tons of things going on in that person's mind psychologically. So a person who is abusive towards someone, either intimate violence or physical violence, usually they begin with emotional violence. So they start to tell the person things like, you can't do any better than me. Or in this case, there's no life outside of carbonation. If you leave, what will you do? If you leave, where will you go? And the more you tell someone this, they start to believe it. So you may have somebody leave and then they're like, but what do I do now? But where do I go? And so they're not consenting to being abused, but they've been so indoctrinated with the fear that they cannot survive outside of it. They're going to keep going back. And we see this all the time with battered women syndrome. We see women who will continue to go back all the time, because psychologically they're so indoctrinated, they're so beat down. And you can even see this outside of romantic relationships. You can see this with children who have abusive parents. Notice that even when a parent is extremely abusive and horrible to a child, they will still choose the parent over adoptive parents or a foster home. It's the same thing. And you would say, well, why would they want to go back there? It's, they're being abused. Yeah, but in their mind, psychologically, they would prefer to go back to that person because that person has told them that the outside world is so much worse. So they're more in fear of the outside world than what they know is going to happen to them there.
And clinically, can I just say clinically, that is a well-documented thing within psychology. It is referred to as mental manipulation, and this would be considered a high control environment where mental manipulation is a part of everything. It is a real thing, and therefore that is also to be taken into consideration. And that's also why we would have to see how this plays out, because the same thing again, the Keith Raniere, the Warren Jeffs, Jim Jones, all of those sorts of things. Once you are indoctrinated into a culture, similar to how we are in American culture, there are certain things that we just do, right? Because all of our lives, it's been preached to us and told to us that this is how you do it. That same thing can happen on a smaller scale for a religious sect, high control environment. Even when you go into a grocery store or to school, the same thing happens in groups like Carbon Nation.
Agreed. So we have with us both, again, I don't want to butcher your name, QI, I think Key and KKC. We'll start with Key. Am I right? QI, are you still with us? No? Okay, KKC, how are you?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yes, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the panel. Um, Peace to the chat. And this is a great conversation that you're having. Unfortunately, the panel was sabotaged by someone who just wanted to disagree for the sake of disagreeing. Right? It's fun if the topic at hand wasn't so serious. For someone that doesn't know a bit of what's going on with Natureboy and is already, have put on a cape and is trying to defend all Black men, this is not a manosphere conversation. This is a problem with what started off as Melanation. Melanation is the name of the cult before it changed to Carbonation. This has been going on for over 10 years. And it has gotten to the point to where he's conditioned more women into believing that he's God. And not only that, for the gentleman that was on the panel, he was trying to argue whether or not if I can go over here and start my own government, if it's gonna stand. Carbonation doesn't have any paperwork. As a matter of fact, wellness checks was happening all the time. The neighbors was constantly sending DeKalb County over to Natureboy's residence. So much so, informant became a part of the cult. And I played the live stream the other night where DeKalb County had sent a letter saying that they needed more evidence as to what's going on. Like they need to see the abuse happening. They need to see it. So that's what was sent over to them. The videos where he had his wife slap the other wives, or the videos where he was heard kicking and slapping one of the wives. All of that has been documented and has been sent over to the authorities. So when you have a person that doesn't know a lick of what's going on and they're not trying to learn about what's going on, rather they're trying to get some of your audience to come over to their audience, that's not cool. That's not cool. This
that
Nature Boy situation is bad, y'all. It's bad.
it is very
I'm
bad.
sorry.
No, I didn't know that his goal was to get people to come up. I don't even think that may be something. I didn't even think of that, because my mindset everybody loves each other and we're all so I really
Right.
didn't think about things like that. But no, you're right. This Nature Boy situation, I mean, we went through the charges and he's facing the rest of his life potentially in prison. And we know that the allegations are very, very serious, but there have been serious allegations against him for quite some time.
Quite some time. Quite some time. And I'm gonna say this last thing and I'm gonna hop off. It's just my common sense tells me that if CSI, the SWAT team, the FBI, and DeKalb County all pull up at my residence, this ain't no sweep under the rug type situation I'm facing. This is serious. You have all of those agencies at your doorstep at one time. You got a real problem on your hands. As a matter of fact, you have an even bigger problem on your hands when you sit back and say, "Oh, there's no evidence," but all the evidence is sitting right there on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you turn around, you call your people from jail, telling them to erase the evidence, and now all those porno videos that were on Twitter, they're gone.
Well, that isn't going to do a thing for his defense. More than likely, the first thing the prosecution did was contact Twitter and Instagram and everybody and have all of that preserved and screenshot and saved.
Right. And then you have people like me that made videos, and so there's copies.
Yeah. So I don't know what deleting it on Twitter was going to do. I don't know what the point of that was, but
I'm waiting for the more charges to be filed, because we know that he has multiple members of the cult with PPP loans saying that they own businesses that do not exist, that go to bogus addresses, and so on and so forth. We also know that he uses them to secure various state benefits in states that he does not live in. And so there's just a lot that I think could be coming in. I'm going to go ahead and drop down so I can finish up some things. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Miss Mo, and rocking with the truth. I'm with you 100%. We need to start clearing out a lot of this foolishness, because it's people who are vulnerable. And the biggest
drop off myself. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's okay. And the biggest thing is that we don't understand the psychology. And when I say we, I'm just being nice and saying us as a collective, right? Again, trying to be nice. But there are certain people, i.e., like someone who was not frequently, who was just on this panel, that don't have the level of understanding and empathy for victims of these crimes. And that is part of why we are here, right? Because we get people saying things like, well, why would you keep going back if you're being abused? People have to go back, and I shouldn't say have to, but people choose to go back to those kinds of situations all the time for a plethora of reasons. It does not mean they want to be abused. And that in itself shows you we got a long way to go. We need to prioritize protecting people over judging them. Even if someone comes back to you, that does not give you the right to abuse them. That should just be basic. We should all get that. Key, I think it's Key. You got something to say?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, thank God. Pretty much, you have covered a lot of what I want, the questions that I had. But let me first deal with the non-attorney and his thing with thinking that, see, most of those Moorish or sovereign citizen people, they think that you can create a new government. You cannot, an individual cannot, or even a group of people cannot create a new government. Everybody has to exist under a government. So everybody, we were born within a government. Governments have existed for like since antiquity. And if you're not a pre-documented government, then you can't start, you're still going to be under the government of that land. So nobody can come in and create a new government separate from, like, here, the United States laws or United States jurisdictions. Now they'll let you create a community. And the reason the Jewish stuff works is because the Jews are pre-documented from antiquity. And you have to be able to prove that you have those lineages and those ties. So like a lot of them think that you could create a new government. No, you can get a charter, and you, like you said, you could buy land, and but you're still going to be under the U.S. Jurisdiction and U.S. laws.
Exactly. You are absolutely correct. You're still under U.S. laws. You can create your own bylaws, your own ordinances and things like that. But at the end of the day, you're still under U.S. law, and they can revoke the charter. They can revoke the permission that they're giving you.
Yes. And most of the questions have been asked. I was going to ask, do you think that there will be additional charges? But y'all have already sort of covered that. And I sort of knew that anyways, that I just believe that in the near, like, this is not the end of the charge that for Natureboy. And also, like, I pay attention to different things. And right now there's a big thing where CIA and FBI, or they have this thing called incels, because, like, a lot of women are being attacked, lives being taken and things of that nature. And, finally the government is paying attention to it. And they call this group of people incels. And, when you look at Natureboy, and you got to consider that Natureboy is in Georgia, and, Dr. York and the Nuwabians were also in Georgia. So Georgia is very familiar with cults and these types of things and how they work. And when you look at right now, there are a lot of people, including that Subway person, and all of these people, they may not be under the same umbrella, same identification in terms of what they call themselves, but they're all connected. And so in my belief, I think that, this is a lot more serious, and there are going to be a lot of people that are going to get arrested. They're taking channels and different things of that nature. And I think that, and we got to know that when you bring a person in and, they see that they're facing life and different things of this nature for different things, that they're going to tell. So I just foresee that, this is going to be this is just the beginning of something very major.
Yes, I think you could be right. I think this is just the beginning of much more to come. That could be absolutely true. From what we've seen online, there are so many, as KKC was saying, there have been severe accusations against him for years. And it's been kind of a wonder that nothing has ever really occurred from those accusations. So
I think that's a part of the reason. I'm sorry. I think that's part of the reason, because they're like, within his little organization, there's connections to Dr. York. One of the girls, she's an ex-girlfriend of Dr. York. He's connected to, it's documented that he's connected to young Pharaoh, documented, like they were saying, Sinetta, documented that he's connected to a lot of the people from the manosphere and those different groups. And they all have the same talking points or ideology. So it's like it's just evident, all, like, from Natureboy alone, our roads leads everywhere. So, and I don't think that I know that they're going to look into it, because I know at this point they're looking at this like it's a major problem, and they're going to try to get to the root of it. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, because you covered pretty much everything that I was initially going to ask. The consent, I was going to ask how much of the consent has to do with what state of mind the person's in, and you've already covered that. Oh, and another little point that I wanted to go ahead and point out, one of the reasons that the girls go back is because y'all have to keep in mind that Nature Boy holds their identifications hostage, like their IDs, their social security cards, and things of that nature. So a lot of times when, you can get out. Okay, so he's letting them out, but they don't have any of their personal identification, which means that wherever they end up, unless they go to like a place that'll help them, like domestic violence shelters and stuff like that, they're stuck. They have to get some sort of identification to just, be able to get apartment, get a job or whatever to move on with their life. So, like not only, is it mental, but he's also, holds things that, are very necessary to life. And that's all I have to say. And thank you for allowing me to come on. I love what you're doing, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's people like you and having this community here that makes it worth it. You know what I mean? Why I come on here when I could be relaxing or doing 50 million other things, I love this. I love to teach. I love to talk about the law. And I love to have these conversations because this is a beginning to the solution. I always say this on my channel that just by being here, you're a part of the solution. We're having the conversation. We're talking about the psychological effect of going through this sort of thing and what happens from there on. We're talking about the case and talking about the charges in an educated and mature manner. These sorts of spaces is a solution to all of the issues that we're having, really. And someone made a comment about the manosphere that I found to be interesting. And they mentioned that, well, you see it on the screen, okay, was a fan of you see the names on the screen. And let me say this. Anyone, and I do mean anyone, that is teaching you to hate a certain gender is a problem because the two genders do not exist without each other. You do not get men without women, and you do not get women without men. So instead of focusing on all the things that you can't stand about someone else or some other gender or some other race, why not focus on all the things you need to be working on? Novel idea, but I have a feeling that if we were to give it a try, we'd all be better off. All right, so listen, I am going to head on out. It has been lovely, but it's time for me to go. So this has been another installment of Empowered Esquire TV. I hope that you have been empowered by the information shared today. You bring something unique to this world, to this channel, to my life, and I love you for it. I'll see you next time. And if you're replay gang, man, we had so many different conversations, but if you're replay gang, here's a couple of things for you. First, how much time do you think Nature Boy will get? Because we know that it could be somewhere around the range of 36 years, and that's serious, okay? And second, what did you think of our panel discussion? Who was your favorite panelist? All right, let me know. I'm looking to hear from you. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.